Hello. Welcome to the presentation about approaching technical solutions for initiatives in established products. I see people still joining. First of all, welcome. I would like to welcome you to this presentation and also to the second edition of the Let's Talk About It event. This event has had also instances in past years, and this time the event will span over this whole week, in which we have around 1 or 2 presentations per day for different technical areas of applicable technologies, presentations such as architecture, good practices, or technology. Before jumping right into the subject for today, I would like to reiterate the fact that this session is recorded. So in case you want to view some parts of this session soon, you will be able to access the recording link again, most probably tomorrow, when you will receive it via the email you have registered. Okay. So as you might have seen, today has, and it will still be all about innovation. And after Liliana's presentation, I want to give also an insight from the technical standpoint on the process of adding innovation to a software product. Since, of course, this subject can be quite vast, today I'll focus on the perspective of adding it or integrating it into an already established software product. What does that process mean, and what was my and my team's experience with it? First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. Hello, I'm Irina. I'm a software developer in Yonder since 2017. Since then, I've worked on 2 big projects, and besides my day-to-day activities, I like getting involved in mentorship programs, debating technical experiences with my colleagues. And technically, the areas I'm most interested in are architecture and, of course, innovation. Currently, I'm part of what we call an innovation team. So our main objective is to actively add new functionalities and modules to the modules that we work upon, improve the software product and the processes and the technologies used, and maintaining their quality so that we keep a low level of technical debt. In my spare time, I enjoy walking in nature, meeting with friends, making photographies. I wouldn't say I'm the best at it, but I really like it. And since we're talking about newness today, I recently discovered that I really like skiing, a thing that I really would like to practice more in the near future. For today, the agenda involves discussing innovation and why, when, and how do we do it. What are the things to be taken into account when starting this process? What are the most frequently applied types of innovation activities? And lastly, I'll share some stories where me and my team have implemented it, what was our process, and what were the lessons we've learned along the way. Before diving further into today's presentation, if you have any questions, please write them down or keep them in mind for the Q&A session at the end. And if you have any other curiosities, don't hesitate to reach out. So because all the contact info will be at the end of the session. Innovation and inventions are sometimes used interchangeably. They are connected yet not equal in meaning. Innovation and inventions can be both sometimes a scary concept, but they are still different and not that hard to apply. Inventions require creativity, finding a new idea for a specific problem and bringing it to life. Even though sometimes inventing is not an easy task, it doesn't have to be reserved to the geniuses. Innovation, though, gives an extra dimension to the concept, brings the idea of value brought up by the capacity of selling inventions. Inventions can appear everywhere. For example, I could invent now the concept of snow slippers or something like this, but honestly, I wouldn't call it innovation because I don't think it has much potential to be considered commercially valuable. But leaving all the jokes aside, you don't need to invent something to innovate. Inventions can be created, but innovation can be achieved by connecting inventions and concepts together in order to create a new solution for a need or improving one which is already existent. In theory, innovation is a practical implementation of ideas resulting in new goods or services or improvement of those goods or services. The innovation process has even standards, which are internationally agreed upon. In this case, ISO 56000 is created for innovation management and provides a vocabulary, fundamental concepts, and principles for implementing systematic innovation. Of course, there are a multitude of different definitions for innovation. A common element in all of them is the focus on newness, improvement, and the overall spread of ideas or technologies. In software development, even though the main idea remains the same, innovation is also defined by the context of the field and the market. Generally, innovation often implies making products, processes, or technologies, services, or even models more effective. This can be done in two main approaches: inventing something new that solves an issue, or improving the existing products by using more appropriately some good practices, knowledge, or techniques. To this, I'd add an extra layer of depth and mention that the need for innovation is not always brought up by a previously bad decision or bad application of techniques and processes. Sometimes it's just because some things get obsolete in time, or things like technologies just get better. In simple words, the reason behind is the noble pursuit of doing things better. So covering a need, better resource management, improving a process and making it faster or easier to accomplish, defining a better way of doing things, or even sometimes getting competitive advantage of the company in the market. Like previously mentioned, the field in which the context of creating innovation in software is also really important, because the environment is defined by the high speed in which innovation happens. In software, the forever expanding list of providers doing it, the languages and areas in which the innovation can appear, or even the fact that there is a strong open source community continuously contributing to create innovation. Of course, the easiest way to implement it in software development is when you have no dependency and you are free to choose whatever best approach is available in the market. And usually that's the case when you start from a product, you start a product from scratch. Yet things get more complicated when you want to add novelty or enhancement to a product that already has some decisions and practices in place, and basically affects the way you are able or not to do it. So let's imagine the idea of a software product that has already passed the pitching phase, and you and your organization have managed to develop a functionality that's currently used on a relatively large scale in the market. The lifetime of a product in general doesn't have to stop there, and for sure doesn't mean novelty cannot be added to it. And since software products also need to grow and improve in order to maintain the end user satisfaction over time and to achieve the business goals of the organization developing it, a team must also be open to embracing innovation as part of its daily activity. So from a technical point of view, and of course, I wouldn't say it's only from a technical point of view, The distinctive characteristic when not doing it on a clean slate is that everything must also fit with the other product context. So if there is one thing I understood over the years of implementing multiple types of innovation as part of the innovation team I'm part of, is that you have to be ready to make some uncomfortable decisions and get out of the known path safe zone when trying to extend an existing product. Be ready to break patterns and make some choices to adopt innovation. And here, as an example, we had a situation where we had to choose to innovate a monolithic application by introducing microservices in order for new modules to scale independently and keep up with the market trends. So we had to break pattern and choose scalability and maintainability over consistency. Of course, this is only one example, and I'll share also others during today's webinar. Another thing to be considered is the fact that in the product context, you also have to take into consideration that as if your product is complex, also the effort of adding innovation to it will increase with project size, because at the moment in time you will implement it, but that has to be propagated and maintained in later phases. So take into consideration you need time. There are multiple ways in which you can innovate a product. Yet today, I'll focus on a specific strategy that me and my team have experimented with multiple times in the past years, specifically the organic growth of an application through new initiatives. First of all, the idea that a product organically grows and new ideas for modules or functionalities find their way into the application is already a great sign. And the fact that you can find new modules and functionalities and improvements means that the product developed has the power of making the lives of your users better. So as an organization, that means you have the right purpose. Basically, in this phase, the idea transforms from a thought to a concept which is can be integrated into your product. Defining a product brings the concept to life, so the idea comes into a form. Requirement analysis and prototyping are great, powerful tools for churning an idea and discussing necessities for later starting the work on it. Functional and technical proposals imply the analysis and design for functions and the data for creating the appropriate solution in order to implement your new initiative. Techniques and methodologies can be applied in order to create the appropriate models, which should be custom made for the clients or the application's context specifically. Ideas and proposed solutions might sound good on paper, but there is simply no unlimited time to test them all. So during a hackathon, a team can dedicate their efforts towards testing if a candidate solution or an idea works in the context of a product. So the purpose is to check if the idea is feasible or not. And aspects such as technology suitability, complexity, focus points, or even breaking points can be practically assessed into a short period of time in which a team can meet up with also other third parties that impact the module. Modeling comes as a phase when the solution is already agreed upon, the risks and benefits are assessed, and implies setting up a scope for that new initiative against the existing constraints, such as time, budget, or even resources, so that a customer or your organization can find a good enough scope for a minimum viable product. Which leads us, of course, to creating an MVP. So all the activities of building a version of the product which is small enough for the target audience to get a taste of it, and most important, to get some feedback. So it also sets the base and validates an idea in order to see if it's worthy of embarking on a lengthy, iterative process of creating the whole complex product. And once we've reached this stage, and if the results of the analysis and the MVP are positive, the process can be either continued with the next phases, so MVP, then phase 1, phase 2, and so on, or you can restart the same series of steps with a new next good idea that you might want to add to your product. Last but not least, I'll mention today another type of innovation process that you could create in your product, which doesn't really is not really necessary for it to start with a new initiative, and these are modernizations. Some technologies or features or techniques just get old over all the time, and especially in this field, like I said, things change fast. Technologies might need to implement breaking changes, or some of them are just being abandoned altogether. Modernization activities can be achieved in various forms. Some examples could be upgrading dependencies or even framework migrations. And it's really important to also do them from time to time because they prolong the life and value of the product by making sure it stays away from technical depth. For today, I won't get into much detail about the modernizations because, in my opinion, this type of innovation activity can have easily a standalone webinar. Yet, if you're interested, I'd recommend checking our CTO Remus's presentation from the Yonder event called the Pragmatic Innovation, for which you can find the recordings on YouTube, on the YouTube channel of Yonder. There are some tips and tricks and some discussions about the modernizations and how you can implement it into your product. The sequence of activities sounds all good and nice in theory, but building it is a whole new deal. So for a product to go from, by the help of a development team, you also have to have enough knowledge and the means to bring it to life. In the case of an already established product, great domain knowledge and well internalized technical guidelines must be also paired with two big directions of how and what you build in the new initiative, both of them being impacted by the existing technical solution. You must make sure that your new idea can be integrated with the current solution, but it doesn't have to be a reproduction. Of course, you have to take into consideration technical aspects such as architecture, data models, storage, tech stack, or even the current processes and team that will work on it. But you don't have to stick to the old ways, yet you can also implement innovation at the process and the overall product level. So for example, implementing patterns that prove extensibility in the product, or setting insight mechanisms into the application, or even refactoring old code that stop or make adding innovation from now on really, really difficult. Like I've said in the start of today's meeting, I am part of what we call an innovation team. We are basically working for a client which manages a well-established product in the medical field. And when I'm saying established, I'm talking about over 40 years of being one of the main providers in the country. So as you can imagine, the product is quite big and complex. In our case, the client's technical team is great and understands the needs and pains of innovation and the necessity of investing in keeping a high level of quality for the product in order for it to be usable also in the long run. Yet, of course, the content challenges, as you may have imagined. So like I said, the product is big with a lot of history and domain knowledge. It's a very complex application with various architectural styles and implementing various design patterns. And here I'm talking about distributed architecture with both monoliths and microservices, multi-tenancy, layered applications, event-driven communication, RPC, both sync and async communication. And I could go on, but besides this, there are also well set practices for development in the organization, which are not the easiest to bend from time to time. Also, the product is appreciated in the market, and there is a continuous need of new modules or functionalities. Thus, the technical improvements sometimes tend to come second to the ones related to the new functionality. So, of course, there are fast-growing domains, and the fact that we're also integrating with a lot of third-party software application adds to the complexity of it. Over the years, as you might have imagined, us as a development team, we have asked ourselves, while our partnership with the client grew, how can we help with the challenge of innovation for keeping the product healthy and satisfactory for the end customers? And to us, our approach was quite simple. We started with knowing and understanding what the client's ambitions are, who is the end customer, and what are its needs, and we set up setting a purpose for the team. Not long after, we were not only working on assignments and tasks and objectives set for us, but we would gain the trust to also partake into the new initiative proposal process. So next, I trust you still remember the phases mentioned earlier. So like I said, even though the usual process of proposing a new idea for a product is mostly governed by the client's business experts, we could participate as a development team in the co-creation sessions because we understood the needs of the product. So in our case, the idea was that in the medical product, the idea was that the consultation process with the patient wasn't efficient enough. And of course, in this world in which the population is getting older and sicker, and the healthcare workers experience more and more pressure. So the team was able to define a new module by which the process could have reduced the filling process of the discussions between the patients and the healthcare workers, so that the time in which the patient could receive the appropriate attention would be increased. As a development team, we were kept in the loop for requirement and prototyping in order to validate that the idea could be fit correctly into the existing product. Next phase was the one in which the module's functionality was separated into logical flows and screens so that they can be later used for estimations or planning activities. The development team, guided of course by the product owner and our product champion, was fully involved. So the requirement analysts worked on defining the right functionalities and their implications. The developers described the dependencies to be considered during the proposals, and the quality assurance department set overall quality metrics that could be applied to ensure suitability. Based on those requirements, both technical and functional proposals were detailed. At this stage, we all gathered into brainstorming sessions. We have set the benefits, the resources, the constraints that we had, and we came up with multiple and ranked proposals for the new module. And we evaluated the risks and benefits of what was already in place. And here is what I mentioned as an example. we came up with a proposal to change the current way of integration between modules in the application and proposed a new solution for that. In our case, it was an integration through a single sign-on process. So our proposal, of course, was debated with our other technical stakeholders, and happily it was accepted, and we went on with it. As we all have quite, like I said, we all in the team have quite some experience with hackathons, and we think there are great ways of enabling innovation for a software product. We have even 2 instances where we started new modules with a hackathon, and both times the results were extremely valuable. So as a developer or a team or even the client, a hackathon is a very efficient way of getting really valuable information with minimal investment and in a very short amount of time. Last time we did it, it was in June last year. We met for 3 full days and worked alongside our product owner and third-party stakeholders in the same room, analyzing if our ideas made sense into the existing architecture. Before the meeting, we set some plans and expectations. We invested some days for some requirements and the environment to create it and prepare it for those days, because we wanted to use that time in order to really work on the ambitions that we have, not to prepare the environment. And here I want to underline the word invest, because the hackathon and preparation for the hackathon is not lost time. That V0, I would call it, was used in our case as a first starting point in the actual development of the new initiative. So, like I said, in our case, the hackathon was to test some implementation ideas and to cover 3 happy flows, and also to be used by our product owner and product champion in order to get some feedback from the actual end users if they're happy with the functionality that we've thought of. The hackathon was really fun, but it wasn't easy. So, like I said, the whole team, including our product owner, stayed into the same house, coding for hours and abusing coffee. And we still couldn't cover all 3 happy flows, but we understood so much from about the effort we were embarking on. And at the end of the day, everybody was happy with, because we created something visual, and the audience was really excited and looking forward for the actual end product. If you're curious, you can check the article about it in Yonder's website and LinkedIn. Like I said, during all these discovery activities, a lot of knowledge has been acquired. And based on the business constraints from the client, the list of activities to be done, and the team components, a formula for the appropriate team and cost for finding the first minimum viable product could be made. In the past, I would say, due to the good preparation and the good modeling process, our effort estimations were really, really accurate. The only alterations were caused by the change of scope. And of course, after the plan is set and the list of requirements of the minimum product is agreed, development starts. So in our case, throughout the multiple new initiatives started with an MVP, we found it extremely useful to achieve the scope under an iterative process. In our case, we used agile methodology. Returning to the idea previously mentioned in this meeting, it is extremely important to develop, keeping in mind to allow future innovation, either through extensions or modernizations in the future. For the consultation module that I mentioned in the start of this meeting, we actually continued after the MVP with 2 more phases that wouldn't have been successful if we wouldn't have applied the technical extensibility measures. And another really important aspect was to ensure quality, preferably automatic. So either automation or performance testing are great examples of ways to achieve that. For modernization, again, I won't dwell long on this, but modernizations are also necessary for implementing innovation. In our case, we've seen that the cost of maintaining overall good quality is less than needing to adopt breaking changes due to necessity. So 2 suggestions from us, really short. You can either make it part of your day-to-day activity. So every time you touch a piece of code, you leave it better if you find good ideas to improve it. Or you can create like somewhat of an innovation event, if you may, once 2 weeks or once a quarter or however the time allows, in order for us to create improvements in our modules or just upgrade the technologies used. The experience in implementing innovation in established products mentioned earlier made us see some patterns here and there that helped us from one instance to the other when new initiatives would come our way. So we could separate 3 big phases, each one of them having some actions we would check off the list before going to the next one. The first one, of course, is the pre-development phase, in which we focus on understanding and preparing for the actual development. We make sure we understand the business, the market, and the client context. We agree upon some quality gates. We estimate efforts on 3 big directions: optimistic, pessimistic, and realistic cases. We make sure all prerequisites are set up, so either dev environment or priorities, requirement list, and other such, and also prepare the solutions, but with the follow-up risks that could appear. We find also some solutions for them. During the development and safeguard phase, we, of course, develop the functionality, but besides this, we comply to the set quality gates. We create relevant logging and dashboards for monitoring later the functionality is developed. We make sure the documentation is properly set and maintained, and whatever automatic checks we can create, such as tests or dashboards or even alerts. And after we are happy with the current product we have, we go on to the next phase where we deliver it to the end customers, and we enter the phase of analyze and improve. We make sure we understand how the users are using the module. We document the findings, but don't forget about them. So either we find the failures or misuses in the application, or either metrics that should be improved. We create a list of them and find some time for maintenance, because maintenance is a natural part of innovation. Also, the next logical thing, let's say you found a good improvement ideas through analyzing your application, just prepare for the next phase by going back to the first stage. And over all these actions, at every step, keep in mind to propose, implement, and follow innovation allowing practices. And for my fellow developers out here, this might sound familiar, but arrange, act, and assert the fact that next time you plan to extend what you've innovated now, you need to have the right context to do it afterwards, so that you don't become your own worst enemy when you won't be able to do it. Summarizing, here are some things we've learned through adding new innovations into this well-established product, sometimes the hard way. So make sure you gain some domain knowledge on what you're doing, because you can indeed add new functionalities, but you can do it the best way when you also have your own expertise to put to the test. So in this way, you also build a strong partnership with your organization or your client, and your end users will have the best version that could be in their hands. Make time for innovation. I know we're all busy and things happen fast, but what today is innovation, in 1 year could be tech debt that maybe you will have to also address. So doing it step by step in your day-to-day activity will save yourself also some trouble later. Invest in automatic quality controls. Here, like I said, you can do it manually, but why not make your life easier and make some time for the really important activities in your job. Measure anything and everything. More specifically, measure how your innovation is perceived. We have situations in the past where because the measuring wasn't done correctly, we wouldn't understand how and why some modules weren't really used to their full potential. And what would be so hard to find the next best idea to improve or to innovate with when it's right in front of you? Of course, you are not God, you can know anything and everything, but you can be prepared for when things might go south. Create some plans in case something goes wrong, create some recovery mechanisms, and have a way in which you keep them documented so that you can return to them when you need. And last but not least, don't build on assumptions. And since you might become the victim of your own actions and the person that gives yourselves more headaches than you need. You might need to rework on things just because you misunderstood some requirements. I hope you found some useful information today and that our experience has been interesting for you. Now I'm curious if you have any questions and I'm curious to hear them. And if you want to discuss any other ideas, feel free to reach via this email, and we can dwell on them after today. Thank you. Okay, I can see some Q&A questions here. Okay, thank you, Katalin, for the question. In case we don't have assigned time for innovation activities specifically, could you recommend ways to experiment with it? Actually, yes. I would say that in the case you don't have specifically assigned time, you can use the time you're developing the product in order to find areas in the code you're actually working upon in order to leave it better than you found. So you don't have to reinvent the whole application. You just have to see what the opportunity presents at a certain moment in time and leave it better than you found it. This might even be upgrading some dependency to the next best version, or using a better algorithm for doing whatever it needs. Or besides this, I would recommend finding situations in the organization you're in or in the community. So either the technical community or the colleagues in the team to prepare like event type of activities for testing innovative ideas, either technologies, flows, or techniques even. This is what we did the past year, and we found them as great experimenting activities for us. Okay, hi Oliver. Thank you for the question. Is the hackathon output throwaway code? If so, how do you prevent it becoming production code? I would say the hackathon output code mustn't be throwaway code. If for the hackathon you are planning for, so you need some time to prepare it, you might need to set the right environment prior or a list of appropriate priorities. You can have some really good practices that you set as expectancies when you start working on the hackathon, and those can be used as a first step into the actual implementation. Besides this, because of course the hackathon is done on a great speed and sometimes not all the classic development activities can be made, I would consider even creating some items into the follow-up sprints or time to develop in order to assess if the quality that you're expecting into the production code is appropriate from the hackathon one. So if it is, keep it, why not? If it's not, you can create some actions in the team and make it better. You don't have to throw it away altogether. This is why I think of it as an investment. Okay, and I see another one. From your experience, do you have an example of a tangent between medical innovation and software innovation? I would say yes. For example, of course, in software innovation, you can use different techniques or technologies that can do things better than you would implement from scratch. For example, you could use, I think one of the easy example there, you could use an algorithm or a technology that does some things faster. For example, I don't know, searching through different medical information, because we all know medical data can become very large in a short amount of time. And based on whatever is in the market, you can find the best approach. I will not go also into the areas such as ML or AI for medical innovation, but these are also areas in which experimenting could be done in order to both bring together software innovation and medical innovation. I see another question. For the new initiatives, did your proposal or experiments prove to be not final? Did you have to change your initial plan, and how did that affect your estimations? On this one, I have at the top of my head one memory. We had one time we started, like I said, with the hackathon, and this circles back to also Oliver's question. We implemented for that specific hackathon, we had to cover up some very basic flows with some very easy to manage data from a relational database. But as we kept improving the module itself with new and new information, and the data space grew with time, we found out that relatively late that we would have some performance issues. And in that case, we had to take into consideration the fact that we had to rethink the way we manage the data, which we could have done different in the hackathon. But like I said, planning for these scenarios was the easy and winning bet for us, because we had planned from the start to make the appropriate performance testing strategy in order to not deliver a piece of code that wasn't fully assessed from the quality point of view. So we had to change some things, but it wasn't too late. And I think that's the last question I see so far. Well, if there are no other questions, thank you for joining me today. And I'm waiting if you have any other things to discuss. I'm waiting for any messages, and I wish you also a great evening and invite you to join my other colleagues during the next days for the following sessions of the Let's Talk About It 2 event. Thank you.